Good evening. This is Councilman Baraka from the South Ward of Newark, New Jersey. Welcome to another edition of the Power Hour. Tonight we'll be discussing democracy in the city of Newark. The video of the last council meeting, November the 20th, where there's been much discussion about what happened in that meeting, and there's two kind of sides of the argument. There's one where people believe that the folks who disrupted the meeting were chaotic. The Star Ledger even referred to them as bellowing or referenced them as chaotic and wild. Council meeting gone wild, they said. Completely and totally focusing on the response that people had to the fact that democracy was being stolen from them. Then there's the other side of the argument, which states that the fact that the mayor used the city clerk, used the law department, used other council people, and even members of the Newark Police Department to obstruct democracy and steal democracy from the residents of this city and from elected council people. There are folks that are appalled by that, who think that that, in fact, outweighs the response of people creating the disturbance in a council meeting. It seems that folks are more concerned with how they are viewed by other people as opposed to whether they have the legitimate form of democracy in their city or not. It is interesting, Frederick Douglass said, the limits of tyrants are prescribed by the endurance of those who they oppress, which means that as long as people who wish to control you can predict the way that you will respond to them, or as long as the folks who are in power can always strategize around what they think that you will do in response to their oppression, they will always be able to oppress you. They will always be able to keep you down, and they will always have one up on you. I think that because folks could not predict what happened at that, could have predicted what would happen at that council meeting, and that the people responded in the way that they responded, it threw a bunch of people in this city off, a bunch of folks that are in power off, who believed that they could come in here in the middle of the night and steal the people's vote, and that we would sit idly by and watch it happen, that we would sit here and poke our lips out or walk away with our head down and be upset in private and not be upset in public, and not have public discourse about what happened here on November the 20th. It was a travesty of justice, an obstruction of democracy, and it was right that people were upset, and it was right that people spoke out. It was right that folks were boisterous. It is important that we understand and that folks who want to come into our city understand that we will always fight for democracy here in Newark, that we uphold it, and we will defend democracy by any means necessary. It's important for folks to understand that we will not allow them to come into our city and steal from us one of the most sacred things that we took hundreds of years to fight for, and that's our right to vote, our right to be heard, a voice in government, a seat of power that we think that folks should not have the ability to come and take at their own whim, at their own choice, who use democracy at their own personal convenience. Is important for everybody in the city to know that not only the residents will become unruly, but that council members will not sit by and watch our democratic rights be stolen away from the people nor us. If you reference the video on November the 20th, you can see at the beginning of the meeting, it was a regular council meeting. It was not designed in any way to have a vote specifically on a vacated seat that now Congressman Payne used to sit in. There was a regularly scheduled meeting. We were about to commence the meeting with a full quorum and begin what normally takes place at our council meeting, and that's the hearing of citizens. Before that happened, Councilman from the North Ward, Aníbal Ramos, tried to put a motion on the floor or change the order of business without following proper protocol, which is to get the council people to vote on a change in the order of business. That never happened. Anytime, if you've ever watched a council meeting, and if you ever watch us deviate from the normally scheduled agenda, you'll see that somebody makes a motion to change the order of business. That motion is seconded, and the council votes on it as a whole, and then we begin to change the order of business. That, in fact, was not done. Councilman Anibu Ramos willfully and purposefully disregarded the council rules and procedures. And in the process of him doing so, if you watch the video, you can see that I interjected immediately, was the first to be heard and the first to be seen on the video, asking to have the floor, following proper Robert Rules of Order, which governs our council meetings. He did not, in fact, recognize me. He purposefully did not recognize me and tried to proceed with a motion on the floor from Councilman at Large Gonzalez, who did not say anything in the beginning. And if you watch even closer, you'll see that Councilwoman at Large Mildred Crump also interjected and began to speak about what I just mentioned earlier, the change of business. She was completely ignored by the acting president of the council, who was Anibu Ramos at that time. She was ignored and I was ignored. You began to see me object loudly to this, and there are a few people who may take objection or offense to the fact that I would not sit by and allow this to take place. People who think that that was unruly, but I think it was proper. I think, in fact, that it not only was it proper, it was a bit constrained, and it was necessary for me to interject and say that not only are you not following the Robert Rules of Order that governs our council, but you are blatantly disrespecting not only me, but thousands of residents in the South Ward who came out to vote that day to make sure that their voice was heard on the city council. And I could not watch him disregard not only myself, but all of those people as well. They proceeded to take a vote anyway. Myself, Councilman from the Central Ward, Darren Sharif, Councilwoman Crump at Large, moved away from the rostrum, the dais, and moved down to the floor where the citizens usually speak from, and began to speak from the podium. They proceeded to take a vote anyway. If you watch carefully and listen carefully, as they took the vote and they called our names, they called us, they said that we were absent when we were in fact sitting in front of their face or standing in front of their face at the rostrum. They're saying we were absent, and we were in fact not absent at all. We were present at the meeting and talking while they were taking a vote. At that time, Mayor Cory Booker, who was standing in the back of the room, proceeded to the city clerk's chair next to the city clerk and pulled out a statute that we believe is a statute that is general and does not govern our council meetings. That we have a specific statute under the Faulkner Act that governs what the mayor has the capacity to do, and that is to vote in a 4-4 tie only, and not to vote arbitrarily or indiscriminately, saying that there is no quorum. That we don't believe that that law actually applies to us, but he gave this law to the city clerk some 15, 20 minutes before the meeting started. The city clerk did not share that with all of the council people, so we believe that the city clerk was also in collusion with what the mayor was trying to make happen that evening. He not only did not recognize me when I raised my hand, he also proceeded to take the vote while council people were in the room and was proclaiming that we were in fact absent when we were not. When the mayor began to quote his ordinance and say that we did not have a quorum, I moved back from the floor up to the dais and spoke loudly and vociferously, saying that there is a quorum, I am here, and the mayor does not have the ability to vote, his ordinance notwithstanding. Even if we follow the statute that the mayor produced, there was a sufficient quorum in the room as I took my seat again on the dais, and the other two council members shortly followed me thereafter. And we explained that there is in fact a quorum, and they continue to allow the mayor to vote anyway. It was a blatant and purposeful obstruction of justice, obstruction of democracy. They, at that point, stole votes from the citizens of this town. And some people might think that that is exaggerated, but that's right on point, because we were voted for by citizens of this community to, in fact, make votes here at this council, in this council chamber. To steal those votes from us is tantamount to stealing votes from the residents of this city. The irony of that is that we just watched in 2012, all over the country, people making claims of voter suppression all over the country, that in 2012 that there are people who are still trying to stop people from exercising their lawful right to vote. all over this country where the Republicans were and conservatives and Tea Party folks were being accused of suppressing votes, of forcing people to have IDs, to come up with all kinds of scenarios and schemes to prevent voter turnout. That did not work for them. And this, in fact, is not going to work for the mayor nor the council colleagues, his council friends, I should say, his henchmen who carried out his orders here, him along with our friend in the North Ward, along with the folks and folks that they represent, came here and tried to pull the wool over our eyes and snatch the rug from under our feet and vote illegally here in our council meeting while we were present. What you saw on TV was the melee. The press showed disruption. They showed a woman who was caught in the middle of this nonsense, who was trying to be sworn in illegally. Folks objected to that and tried to stop that process. That turned outrageous. One of the police officers began to spray mace, which I think is completely out of order. My mother was sprayed with the mace inadvertently as he sprayed mace indiscriminately in this council chamber, putting in danger not only residents who were not, in fact, involved in the ruckus, but his own fellow police officers as well. People were very upset because not only was the vote illegal, but they did this in the presence and in the face of all of us. It would be like someone coming in your home while you're there and trying to steal everything in your house while you watch them, and then have the nerve to get upset with you because they don't like the way you responded to the thief in your house. So people sat and watched them do that, and then watched them try to swear somebody in after they stole a vote, which is also like a thief in your house, not only stealing from you while you're present, but trying to sell off your goods in front of you after they stole it from you as you watched. So being irate is a small kind of response to something of that magnitude. And there's no one in the audience that are watching that has sound mind and body of normal and common intellect that would disagree with what I'm saying, that they would not allow anybody in their home to steal anything from them in front of them and then proceed to sell it or dismember it or do whatever it is or dismantle it in front of them. It is important that the people responded. It is important that the council responded the way we responded. And it is important that we took this issue to court because this needs to be solved by a judge. It is unfortunate that we have to go this route, but I think that it's time that the residents of this town begin to show the mayor and his cronies that we will no longer sit idly by and watch them tear our city apart or give it away or run this town like a bunch of bank robbers in Ocean's 12. It's important that people respond and respond loudly and vociferously and respond intellectually and respond strategically. But whatever you do, you have to respond. Frederick Douglass also said, without struggle, there is no progress, right? You can't like the water without liking the waves, right? So it's important that we understand that the ocean also has a powerful roar, that if you like democracy, you also have to put up with the raucousness of democracy. If you say that people should be heard, then you have to put up with what the people actually have to say. And in this point, the people said that what happened on November 20th was wrong, was incorrect, and it was a travesty of justice. So the swearing in did not get to take place here in the council chambers. As you could see after the melee, Shanique Spate, who was the person being sworn in, was escorted out of the room, and they went into the mayor's office and swore the young lady in the mayor's office in private. So they proceeded to move forward with stealing our rights here in the council meeting without any impunity. So they went in the back and swore her in as we sat here and waited with the rest of the council folks, and they voted for a recess which in fact was voted on unlawfully. A vote was taken, and by this time, I think the cameras went off in the council chamber, so you're not able to see that we were all standing up on the dais all 7 of us at the time, myself, Councilman Sharif, Councilwoman Crump, Councilman Gonzalez, Councilman Amador, Councilman Quintana, and the acting chair at the time, Councilman Ramos of the North Ward. We were all standing at our on a dais. There was a motion to recess the meeting because we never had an opportunity to actually have a meeting. There was a motion to recess the meeting. The motion was seconded. There was a vote held. Only 4 people voted for that. There was not a majority. There was no quorum on the vote. And so they held the recess anyway, and it was illegal. Not only that, if you follow the council rules, in a case of a recess, that we have actually 3 days to come back and reconvene after the recess, up to 3 days, which did not happen. So we are still have a council meeting that is still taking place, as a matter of fact. And we have not been reconvened to finish or continue that meeting. So there are all kinds of council rules and regulations and state statutes that have been violated simply to fill a seat on this council chambers. And you might ask why all of this about a seat, and that's an important question. It's a very, very important question. People are saying that some folks wanted wanted John James to be in the council seat. Other folks say that the other side wanted Shanique Spate. Well, one, we never got the opportunity to find that out because the power of debate was taken away from us. We didn't have the opportunity to debate or even discuss which council person we wanted. No one was able to come to the rostrum or the podium and speak. That was denied from everybody. None of the council folks were given the opportunity to voice any concern on the floor. Plus the council has other options. We could say we don't want to fill the seat at all, that in fact we want to go to a special election. That we never had the opportunity to entertain any of those options whatsoever. But if you go back to John James, people are making this about Sharp James and former Mayor Sharp James and our present Mayor Cory Booker. In fact, I read an article in the California press that basically juxtaposed Sharp James against Cory Booker and made it about that. That is a way to cloud the judgment and cloud the real issue. The real issue is, again, about democracy. John James ran for councilman at large. He actually raised money, knocked on doors, and solicited votes from the residents of this community. The residents of this community voted for John James. He fell short, but he was the next highest vote getter, which means what? Which means that when Councilman Payne left and vacated a seat to go to Congress, that the next person in line was John James by virtue of the fact that he received more votes from the people than anybody else. We wanted to make that argument, at least I wanted to make that argument, and we were totally disregarded at that point. And I'm making that argument not because I have a special relationship with John James, but because that is the same argument that was made for myself when I took the seat of Councilman Donald Tucker when he passed in an untimely fashion. I took his seat, and there was a debate on the floor. There were 2 sides. Everybody didn't support that, but we had the opportunity for debate. And after the debate, there was a vote held. And by the grace of God, I was able to take the seat because I was the next highest vote getter. So it just seems logical to follow that same train of thought. In fact, after we did that, the council at that time took a vote from a motion on the floor saying that we agree that anytime there's a vacant seat, that the next highest vote getter should in fact get the seat. I was on the council at that time, and 2 other council people that were here were also on the council at that time, Augusto Amador and Louis Quintana. They were also there. And if you check the record, you will see that Councilman Quintana voted in the affirmative that we should support anybody who tries to get a vacated seat if they are the next highest vote getter. I don't know why he changed his mind or who twisted his arm or what part of the collusion he was in, but he changed his mind on that day, and he has a right to change his mind. He just changed his mind on the wrong side of history at this point. Councilmen who ran the meeting, Councilman Ramos, actually orchestrated this thing with Modia Butler, who admitted it in the paper, who is the chief of staff of the Mayor Cory Booker, who waited in the wings, waiting for an opportunity to seize or take power from the people. He ran up here quickly. Modia Butler and the BA watched it on TV in the mayor's office, and they watched Councilman Ramos begin to orchestrate this kind of dance of thievery to steal the people's vote, and they sat around and cheered it on to watch the people defeated in their mind that day, that they once again devised a plan, a scheme to steal from the people of Newark, to take away their right to vote. People who they believe are not mature enough to think for themselves, are not mature enough to govern themselves, and clearly not mature enough to vote and think for themselves. So they feel like they have to come and vote and think for us. Councilman Ramos blatantly and willfully disregarded democracy, disregarded the council rules, and totally disrespected his council colleagues on that day. I believe that he did this in his own ambition, as well as his discussions with other folks that are not council members. And I am appalled, ashamed, and even depressed about the fact that a council organization or a council body that for the last 2 years have been growing closer to work together and cooperate around issues concerning our water, around issues concerning our sanitation department, around issues concerning public safety, around issues, general issues concerning our city in terms of taxes, economic development. We were coming together around those issues, and we've allowed the idea of somebody getting power to break us up, to separate us. Ambition is dangerous, and I would say that those who would do anything to get power do not deserve power at all. Folks whose ambitions are so big or really so small that they don't include anyone else don't deserve to have any authority whatsoever. That people who don't have ambitions that are big enough to include others should not be in charge, because they will never include you. They will only include themselves and people who agree with them and people who are close to them, or people who will serve them to help them gain more power. This is dangerous. It is very dangerous in a time where our city is in dire straits, where we have hundreds of police officers who are not working, who have either been laid off or retired, that were not replaced, where crime is increasing, where poverty is twice that of the state of New Jersey, where our school system is in disarray, where corporations are coming and building, but Newarkers are still not being employed at levels that we need them to be employed. The city, and on top of that, to have what happened on November the 20th to further isolate, divide, and separate the city, then you have to ask yourself, whose interests does that serve? In 1967, there was a rebellion in the city of Newark.